Now we got a new segment because we finished our Into the DCEU segment for now. We got two more movies coming up this year, which will continue it as they come out and spoil it, but not until after it's come out for a while. But now we got a new segment, and it's called The Power of Family, starring Dominic Toretto. Do you know who Dominic Toretto is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Vin Diesel's character in Fast and Furious franchise.
I'm not interested in it at all.
Yeah, so
not my thing.
You didn't watch this with me, which is perfectly fine. So I watched the first Fast and the Furious movie from 2001. Never seen it before.
How many cars did they smash up?
Did they smash up a lot of cars?
They always seem to.
They smashed up a bit there. So let me tell you about this great classic story. You're going to love this. Because this is...
really.
I mean, I watched this franchise, and so I'm watching this movie. I've only seen before. I saw Hobbs and Shaw in the theater. I saw F9 last year because I had to watch it because of the flying car in space. And, and I saw Fast X recently when it came out. So those are the only three that I saw. So now I'm starting at the beginning. I'm going to watch all 11 Fast and Furious movies.
Good for you.
Starting with the first one, Fast and Furious 1, The Fellowship of the Ring. So it starts off, and in 2001, so this movie's a little bit dated because it starts off shipping containers at the harbor, and they load one up on a truck, and they show you what's inside. You're going to love this. It's a whole bunch of TVs. But it's 2001, so it's the old picture tube TVs, you know, those giant ones that are heavy and hard to move around. And then there's a whole bunch of Panasonic DVD players. We're like, yes.
I have one.
Okay. And then there's the small picture tube TVs with a built-in VCR at the bottom.
Oh, like the ones in school.
Just the small ones, right?
Yeah, we had those in school.
And there's a VCR. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Like,
this is dated a while in the last 22 years. So it starts off, and there's a truck hijacking. Okay?
Stealing the TVs?
They steal the truck. Heavy. They steal the truck full of these DVD players and picture tube TVs and ones with the VCR in them. So there's this truck hijacking caper for TVs and DVD players, and there's these three black cars. They look like zooped up Honda Civics or something, right? And they're all black, and they all look exact same, and they got like green lights on them. You know, the neon lights underneath you're not allowed to have? Well, they got it. Okay. And then these three cars are taking out
especially in Nova Scotia,
are hijacking this truck. And it's ridiculous. The one guy gets out of the car who's driving in front of the truck, shoots like a grappling hook into the windshield, and then jumps across and takes out the driver. I'm like, what is this? It's crazy, right? Okay. And then it's like, okay, there's a hijacking. Now we're going to meet the characters. Because you don't see anyone. Everyone's all in black, right?
Oh, okay.
And they just kill the trucker. So then we're going to meet Brian, that's Paul Walker's character. Okay, so I didn't know his character's name was Brian. I've heard the name Paul Walker a lot because he's one of the stars of this franchise. Okay, and he's driving around his custom green racing car at the track.
What is that, like a Mitsubishi or something?
I didn't see. But it's got this flashy paint job and everything. Because these franchises, it's all about cars, women, guns, that action, that kind of stuff, right? So I'm watching this. I was having a fun time watching this. Okay? You missed out on this because I get this. Okay? He goes to a convenience store that's also a diner, and it looks like a complete dump. And he's asking for a sandwich there. I didn't see anyone wash their hands. This is where he first meets Mia Toretto, who's Dom's little sister.
Oh,
and so he's going there because he's going to hit on her, right? Oh. But the guys there, they don't like it because all these guys show up because Dom's in the back just brooding, right?
Does he make the sandwiches?
No, Mia does.
Oh, but what does he do?
He's sitting in the back brooding in his office.
Doesn't do any work. Okay.
I don't know what he's doing back there. He's back there brooding. And then all these guys show up in all their souped up cars, right? Because it's for street racing, right? So so these four cars come in,
Lancers
and
or something.
So his crew comes in, including Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah.
What's her character's name? Letty.
I don't know.
So she's in it since the beginning, and he orders a sandwich there, and these guys don't like it because one of the characters, Vince, is interested in Mia. So they get into a fight and they throw Paul Walker out, and they're in a big fight and everything. And then Mia's yelling at Dom to go break it up. And he has to go break it up and just, So you get the first appearance of Dominic Toretto. He breaks up the fight and kicks out Brian from the store. Don't ever come back. Right?
Okay.
Guy didn't do anything wrong.
And he goes back to brooding. And
but he was hitting on his sister, so he doesn't like that,
his
right?
His sister has to make all the sandwiches and the food and wait on everybody. Well, sounds right.
Paul Walker goes back to his job at this custom car place where they get their cars zooped up, right?
Okay.
And he's supposed to be fired because Dom called his employer to fire him because he doesn't like this guy that much. And he's like, good help's hard to find, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Good mechanic is hard to find.
Yeah.
I do agree with that.
But this isn't a mechanic place. This is for like zooping up your cars and putting on, because Paul Walker has to buy like a big thing of NOS. You got to have the NOS.
Oh yeah.
Okay, for your car. Then there's this giant street party they go to, and it's like this abandoned like grain silo areas, and they're having this.
This is the time of raves and stuff.
Yeah, but there's this giant street party, and there's all these cars and all these people. No one shows up to check it out. They're just having this big car, and they're showing off their cars.
Right.
And then they're gonna street race, right?
Right.
So Brian shows up. Paul Walker shows up with this green car, which isn't his, and he's waiting for Dom to show up. And other guys are trying to hustle him and everything. At one point, I think I saw Milton from the Suicide Squad walk by.
Okay.
A younger Milton. I'm like, wait a minute. And then we see this other guy, Hector, is a completely different actor. He's trying to... Anyway, get this. Because it's 2001, you know what music they're playing in the background? Limp Bizkit. I'm like, oh,
Limp Bizkit.
That has not aged well. Whew. I haven't heard Limp
Bizkit again.
I haven't heard Limp Bizkit in over 20 years,
yeah.
And I didn't need to hear it in this movie.
I forget what the guy's name is from Limp
Fred
Bizkit.
Durst.
Fred Durst, yes. Everyone likes to make fun of him.
Oh, man. Limp Bizkit. Yeah. Ooh, bad music choice there. So showing off their cars, and then Dom and his crew shows up. So now everything can get started, because Dom is the center of everything. So even back then, he's the main guy, right?
Okay.
So then they're all taking bets and talking trash because they're going to have a big race, right?
Do they just always race, or do they like do the drag or something?
No, I'll get to it, okay?
Okay.
So they're going to have a... But it's all wacky and over the top, and it's flashy cars, and there's beautiful women, and, Michelle Rodriguez, she's dressing kind of skanky in this. She's wearing one of those see-through tops and everything. So Brian wants in. So they let him in. I don't know why. Anyway, so all the cars drive off from this place, right? Like everyone gets in their cars and like 100 or more cars drive off.
Because the cops are coming, yeah.
No, the cops aren't coming. So what they do is they drive into LA, I'm guessing it is, because it's in California. Okay. They drive into the city, and then all these people just block off the roads, right?
Right.
Because they're going to make a drag race, okay?
Right.
So all the drivers just block off the roads. They don't have permission to do this. They just do it, right?
You can only do that back home.
And there's only one guy.
You can't do that in LA.
Yeah, how you do that in the city?
You can do that in Cape Breton,
but there's one guy with a police scanner, and then they all got radios.
So the neighbors would call the cops. Like, people live there.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a Pizza Hut guy who's doing a delivery, shows up, he's like, what the hell, I gotta get through. They're like, piss off, this is our road now. Okay, so they have this giant race.
Right.
And they're just racing along, and it's really over the top. It's way over the top. But it's fun, I had a fun time with it.
Illegal.
And Brian gets into this race because he bets the car, right?
Okay.
And halfway through the race, his car starts falling apart. Like a piece of the underplating falls off and goes flying, right? And...
couldn't afford screws, I guess.
Anyway, he loses the race.
Okay.
Anyway, and his car's all busted up.
Very interesting
so he owes Dom a 10-second car. Meaning it has to make the mile in 10 seconds or something. Okay?
Gosh.
So I'm not a cars guy. Let's see. Cops show up and chase everyone. because of course the cops would show up with this giant street race, and there's thousands of people that all just show up to watch this
Right.
race.
They do have. You can actually organize a race and do it at a real track.
So they're street racing.
You
This
don't
is how
need
they
to.
do it. It's fast and it's furious.
Oh
Remember?
gosh.
You gotta go with the title. It's in the title. So the cops scatter. Everyone scatters, but they're chasing Dom. They're going after certain people because they gotta get Dominic Toretto.
But his car is too fast.
Yeah, exactly. But his
Oh.
car is also very flashy too. So he ditches it in a parking garage and starts walking down the road. Cops find him. Now he's on foot running. Who shows up to get him?
I don't-
Paul Walker shows up to help him and helps him get away. Yay! So
Exciting.
now they're good buddies because this is all about him trying to get in with Dom and his gang. Because we
Okay.
find out that Paul Walker, Brian, he's a
Yeah.
cop. He
Oh.
works for the LAPD, and he's having these meetings with the FBI, and they're coordinating with the FBI to take down this gang because they're stealing these TVs and VCRs and DVD
I
players.
think they could have just like done surveillance on the street and got them all. If they're all like, the streets are blocked off, it would be easy just to get them. Anyway.
You'd think so,
You would
throw down some
think so.
spike strips and have a bunch of cops, but okay.
Oh my.
Okay. So Brian helps Dom get, and then there's an Asian motorcycle gang scene.
Are they their?
And they get
their
taken to
rivals?
this. Apparently, yeah, it's another gang because they accidentally go into their territory because they were
Oh, you
running from
never
the
do
cops.
that.
And so the Asian gang surrounds them on
Right.
their motorcycles and takes them into this Chinese market area.
Okay.
And then they have this big showdown and everything.
Still sounds really boring.
Okay.
No.
Then it cuts to Dom's house because everyone's back at Dom's house and they're having a big house party. So they're the cool guys that just all like they're partying and there's all kinds of
He's
people.
like the
just,
worst neighbor with like loud music, loud people,
Okay.
loud cars.
Yep.
It's like that next
Yep.
door sometimes.
In this like really nice, kind of quaint family house somewhere in the middle of LA.
None of them can afford mufflers.
Yeah, no, they got loudners on it. They can afford it. They just put the loudners on it.
Oh gosh.
Okay. And Dom ends up fighting with Vince, the guy who got into a fight with Brian at the beginning and threw him out of the restaurant. And this is where we first see the Coronas. Dom's like, you can drink whatever you want as long as it's Corona in my house.
Okay.
Because you gotta have Corona. It's promotion. It's promo spot.
Oh.
This franchise is all about Coronas. Okay? That's the other thing.
Okay.
Cars, women, races, guns, Coronas. You gotta have Coronas. Brian and Mia Toretto, they're talking, but they don't hook up. Okay? He's still trying to win over Dom, right? He's got to win over her big brother first.
Oh yeah, that's the way that women like it.
Yep, apparently. Well, it's this really tight-knit family
Oh,
in LA
my.
there.
Okay.
They have a family dinner at Dom's with Brian, and at one point, you know what you see? A floppy disk. They put it into the computer to get some
Like
information.
a 5-inch?
No, the 3.5
Oh, okay.
inch. The 3.5 inch floppy disk, and I'm like,
Right.
wow.
Yeah, we had those back in the day.
Yeah.
I thought it should have been a 5-inch.
No, that would have been the 80s.
I had like a special little box for mine.
Yeah, but
I still
remember,
have
this is
them, I think.
2001, so they would have made this in the late 90s. So I'm like, so it's DVD players, VCRs, picture tube TVs, and
Right.
floppy disks, right?
Yay.
Oh yeah, bringing back the nostalgia tech there. What else do we got here? So they have
Cell phones?
oh yeah, there's some pretty interesting cell phones. There's a fight with Brian, Mia, and Vince. Hector, the guy from the street racing, wants all these parts from the shop that Brian works at. I guess it's his
Right.
cover. Why does he have to work at this shop? And he rats them out to Dom and that.
So what's the conclusion of all this? Wrap it up. What's the conclusion to this? Just sounds like some squabbles and loud things.
Well, hold on. I want to mention another thing. They keep talking about there's this race wars that's going on. I'm like, ooh, that's not a good name.
Like racing cars or like races and...
They
like,
keep
what
saying
race
race
you
wars.
are.
I'm like, that doesn't sound good. That sounds
Ah.
like something that we shouldn't talk.
Are
Sounds
all
like
these
race
people
riots.
white people
No,
that are in their...
no. This is a very multicultural group
Okay.
because you got white people, you got Hispanics, you got black people. It's very
Okay.
multicultural.
So,
Okay. So this big
Yeah.
race wars thing is going up, and that's what it leads up to. Is this big race thing going on at the end there?
exciting.
And Brian ends up having to save Vince because they're trying to hijack another truck, but it doesn't go very well. And Brian ends up hanging off the front of the truck, Indiana Jones style, and he's hanging off the side because his arm's caught in the metal cable, and only Brian can save him at these high-speed chases and everything. It's crazy.
I'm sorry, it's like a bunch of people that I would hate to live next door to that are stealing things and causing a public nuisance.
Yeah, they're not exactly, the upper class of society. And they work at their garage. They're always hanging out at their garage. And Dom lets him in and he tells him his story about his dad who died and his dad's car and everything. It's interesting. So Dom and his crew are pulling another truck hijacking, and they got their 3 zooped up Honda Civics again. They're all black. Vince ends up hanging off the front of the truck, but the driver has a shotgun. And somehow they're yelling at each other during this high-speed thing, right? I'm like, how do they hear it? I can barely hear them. They wouldn't be able to do that. What we got here? Brian in his orange racing car with Mia to the rescue. He saves Vince. Brian calls in a 911 call, gives his police badge number in front of Dom, and Dom is pissed because that's when he finds out he's a cop. He's like, how dare you betray me? You've been a cop this whole time? Because he was part of the family, He's part of Dom's family.
Seems like it's celebrating criminals.
So the ambulance helicopter comes and saves Vince, because otherwise Vince's going to lose his arm because he was hanging off this truck by his arm. Dom leaves and Mia goes with Dom, not with Brian. She's standing in between them at one point. She's like, oh, you betrayed me. I'm going with Dom. It's a real soap opera thing. You might like the soap opera aspect.
Terrible. I don't know.
Okay. Brian drives to Dom's place to stop him, leaving with a shotgun. Mia's there. Jesse shows up. That's like their little white kid tech guy. And he actually made a bet, and he lost during the race wars, which is just more drag racing. It's not a race riot or anything. And he loses the car, but he just drives off instead of giving him the car. Let's see what we got here. Mia's there. Okay. Then there's 2 of the Asian motorcycle gang, the Tran gang motorcycles, drive up with automatic weapons, and they're shooting their automatic weapons, and the only person they hit is Jesse. Okay? So they kill Jesse. Oh no, they killed the young guy that we loved. But they don't hit anyone else, even though they got automatic weapons. It's crazy. Brian and Dom drive after them, kill both those guys, then they race each other to the train. Oh yeah, they have another race just to see if they can beat the train that's coming up ahead.
That's always smart.
Okay, and they both beat it. Yay! Why they need to have this race?
I don't know. It sounds terrible, and it sounds like it's celebrating
They
criminals.
both make it, but Dom crashes and flips his car. It flips over twice.
Smashes the car, of course.
There's sirens approaching, so you know they're coming. They're going to arrest Dom. Brian gives Dom his car because he owes him a 10-second car. And Dom drives off. And they're not exactly that friendly, okay? Because he's a cop and he betrayed him. How dare he? And then it's playing the credits. And I said to just play the credits because I was listening to the music and I was writing up these notes. Then there's an end credit scene.
Oh.
And it's in Baja, Mexico. And sure, okay, sorry. I've never been to Mexico. And you just see Dom driving off and he says his famous quote that he said earlier in the movie. You get that famous quote. Here, I'll pull it up here. What is this thing that... Okay. He lives his life a quarter mile at a time.
It sounds just god-awful.
But people love this.
Oh my god.
Here.
Anyway, it sounds awful. I'm glad I didn't watch it, but you made me sit through 15 minutes of talking about it.
What's wrong with that? Hold on. Get this. So this has a 55% Rotten Critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but a 74% audience score. So that's 3/4 of the audience liked it.
Audience, I suppose.
Yeah. But get this. So I thought to myself, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, okay, it's got this franchise has its fans because they've made 11 of these movies, right? So why did they keep making so many of them? So I'm going to look it up on... So I looked it up on Box Office Mojo, and here's what it is. This movie was made on a budget of $38 million. Worldwide, it made $207 million.
Okay, that was back in the day, though.
Yeah, in 2001. So, however you look at it, however much they spent on marketing, they made money on this movie. And if you spend $38 million and you get over 200 million back. That's a good return on investment.
Mm.
I'm sure they spent, 30, anywhere from 30 to 50 million on marketing. I don't know, and I'm not looking it up. So that's a good return on investment.
Right.
So, okay, we're making a sequel.
Right.
So that's why we're going to get Too Fast, Too Furious next episode.
Great.
And
I'm so looking forward to it.
I'm enjoying this series so far. I've never seen them. I know it gets really wacky because you got that Pontiac Fiero going up into space.
Me.
Hey, I didn't make you watch these.
Yeah, but just talking about it has tortured me. Anyway, okay. Are we finished? We're finished.
We're finished this segment, okay? So thanks to anyone who watched this and gives us a thumbs up. We appreciate that. Fluffy Kate be really happy about that.
Put her to sleep, man.
She was sleeping before this.
She's really asleep now.
So this was the first part of The Power of Family, starring Dominic Toretto.